So we're going to be adding and subtracting integers today, and we're going to start with adding with the same sign. This is the easiest one of all. So we've been doing the 4 plus 3 when you guys have been adding positives together for years now. So we're just going to do a quick model with these, and it'll help us to kind of illustrate what's happening here. So I've got 4 positives, and to that I'm going to add 3 positives. And so my total, because I'm just going to add this up, is just I now have a total of 7 positives. So this is positive 7, as we all knew. Let's do the negatives now. Negative 3 plus negative 7. So I have 1, 2, 3 negatives. And to that, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more negatives. So now I have a total of, if I count them all out, I've got 10 negatives. So the negative 3 plus negative 7 is negative 10. Okay, now with this, we can kind of summarize and write a rule when we're adding integers with the same sign. So when we're adding integers with the same sign, we are going to get this. So here's what we've got. If you are adding integers with the same sign, then the sign of your sum, so your results like this or this, the sign of your sum will match the sign shared by the numbers being added. So we added a positive 4 and a positive 3, so our result, or our sum, was a positive as well. This one, we added a negative 3 and a negative 7. So we combined negatives. We just made our pile of negatives that much bigger. So our result, or our sum, was a negative as well. And then we just find the sum. After we figure out our sign, we find our sum by adding the absolute values of these numbers. So the absolute value of this is 3, the absolute value of this is 7, so 3 plus 7 is 10. So I know that my sign was a negative from these two signs, and then I know that my sum, the value of this 10 here, it comes from just adding the absolute value of this and the absolute value of that. This is just a fast and easy way to do this. This one, it's when you look at it this way, this is a positive 4, this is a positive, so I know that this is going to be a positive, and then the absolute value of 4 is 4, and the absolute value of 3 is 3, so 4 plus 3 is just going to be 7, so I have a positive 7. Okay, adding with the same sign is easy, and once you get used to this, it's going to be a quick way to do this in your head or on your paper. Okay, this is definitely going to help out. So let's do adding with a different sign now. So we've got negative 10 plus 2, and we have negative 5 plus 8. So with the negative 10, we're just going to do 10 negatives, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we'll do 2 positives. And we're going to add these up. Now remember, from your previous experience with adding and subtracting, or adding integers, if I have a positive and a negative and I add them together, same here, they're going to just cancel each other out. A negative 1 plus a positive 1, that's just going to be 0. So this is 0 and 0. And then all I have left now is this negative, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. So there's 8 of them here. So I have 8 negatives. So negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. Okay, let's do the next one. So negative 5 plus 8. So I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those negative and positives are going to cancel each other out, and I'll be left with just these 3. Oh, I guess I forgot to circle these guys. These 3 positives here, and so that's going to be just a positive 3. All right, so what we notice when we're looking at this is I have more negatives in this one than I have positives, and my result was a negative because I had all these negatives left over after these 2 positives canceled 2 of these negatives. And then here on this one, I have more positives than I have negatives. And so once these 5 negatives canceled 5 of these positives, I was just left with 3 of these positives. So what we know is that the sign of our answer is going to match the sign of the number up here that has the larger absolute value. Okay, so this one has the larger absolute value, so it's a negative. So the sign of our sum is going to be a negative. This one has a sign of a positive, and the 8 has the greater absolute value, and so my sum is going to have a positive value. And the way that I get my value here, this 8, is I just subtract the number with the smaller absolute value from the number with the greater absolute value, which in this case, with the absolute value of 10 is negative 10 is 10, and the absolute value of 2 is 2. So 10 minus 2 is 8. And I already got the sign from knowing that there are more negatives here. This one, I know my sign is positive, and then I would just do 8 minus 5. And that would give me a 3. All right, so when we're adding integers with different signs, we will come up with this statement. Boom. Okay, so now we've got the sign of the sum. The sign of the sum will match the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Okay, so that helps us to get our sign. That's like here. This the sign will match the number that has the greatest absolute value. This has the greatest absolute value, so the sign of our sum will be a negative. And then once we get our sign, then we just find the sum by subtracting the absolute values. So I know here, the absolute value of 10 is 10, and the absolute value of 2 is 2, and I just subtract those. 10 minus 2 is 8. And so that's how I get this 8 right there. I get the sign from here, and I get the 8 from just subtracting the absolute values of those, okay? So what if we have subtraction? That is going to make things a little bit more challenging, but we're gonna fix it. So if we have like 3 minus 7, if I have 3 and I take away 7, that's gonna give me negative 4. And then similarly, if I have 3 plus negative 7, again, so now I've got, let's use our kind of our steps that we had before. I have different signs. This one's a positive, this one's a negative, and the number that has the larger absolute value is the negative 7. So I'm going to take the sign from that. So I know that my answer is going to be a negative, and then I can just now subtract the smaller absolute value from the greater. And so that's going to be 7 minus 3, and that will give me a negative 4. So that is our solution there. Now, notice these two expressions have the same value of negative 4. So that means I could say that 3 minus 7 is equal to 3 plus negative 7. And we're going to use this to our advantage. Notice that this one is subtraction and this one is addition. The only thing that's different here is I've got a positive 3 minus a positive 7. And then here I have a positive 3 plus a negative 7. And so whenever we are presented with a subtraction statement like this, we're going to do what we call add the opposite. So add the opposite, that's this right here. So we're going to add the opposite. So we're going to change this to addition, so the subtraction changes to addition, and then we're going to change this, the 7, to its opposite. This is a positive 7 right now, we're going to change it to a negative. So for example, if we had something like 10 minus 12, we will change that to 10 plus, so I change the subtraction to addition, and then I change the 12 from a positive 12 to a negative 12. Another example would be 7 minus negative 5. This will change to 7, so I change the subtraction to addition, and I change the negative 5 to its opposite, 5. Notice how this one's kind of weird. You have 7 minus negative 5, that's weird. But if you change it to an addition statement, an equivalent addition statement, that's much easier. 7 plus 5, so much easier than this. So we're always going to change to addition, which also makes it easier because it'll allow us to use the rules we just came up with for adding integers. Okay, so we've got our our steps for adding and subtracting integers. So the first step is, if you have subtraction, change it to an addition statement by adding the opposite. Okay, now once you've done that, now you have an addition statement. And you can just use the rules that we came up with for same signs and for different signs. So if you have the same sign, you just keep the sign and add your absolute values. If you have a different signs, which number has the largest absolute value, you use the sign from that number, and then you subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater. So let's do a few examples of this. All right, here's a couple of examples. I have 15 plus negative 9. So if we go through our steps, do we have subtraction? No, we have addition. Do we have same signs? No, we have different signs. This one is a positive, this one is a negative. So since they're different signs, I'm going to take the sign from the number that has the greatest absolute value. In this case, the 15 has the greatest absolute value. So we'll take the sign from that as a positive. So our answer is going to be a positive. And then all we have to do now is subtract, because they're different signs. And the way I like to remember it is different signs, you take the difference. I'm going to take the difference of the absolute values. So that would be 15 minus 9. And so to get my answer, I have positive, and in 15 minus 9 is going to be 6. So my answer is 6. Okay, next one. We've got a negative 6 plus negative 8. So do I have subtraction? No, this is addition. Do I have the same sign? Yes, they both have the same sign. This one is a negative, and this one is also a negative. So negative 6 plus negative 8, I forgot, my answer is going to be negative. And then I'm just going to add the 6 and the 8 together, because I have 6 negatives, and then I have 8 more negatives, and I'm going to put all those together and get a total amount of negatives, and that'll give us our answer. So I've got negative, and then 6 plus 8 is just 14. So this is negative 14. Okay, let's do a couple of examples with subtraction, then we'll be done. Okay, here's a couple of examples with subtraction. So we've got 14 minus negative 7. So my first step is, do I have subtraction? And if I do, I need to add the opposite. So what it means by add the opposite again is I leave this one. This one here is going to change to addition. That's where the add comes from, add the opposite. And then this one is going to change to its opposite. This is a negative 7, so I'm going to change it to its opposite, which is positive 7. So now this is going to become 14 plus, so now I've changed that subtraction to addition, and then I'm going to change that 7 to its opposite. So negative 7, the opposite of that is 7. So now it's just, this is a simple 14 plus 7, it's 21. Makes it much easier to do. Let's move on to the next one. I've got negative 8 minus negative 4. So my first step, I have subtraction, so I'm going to change it. So this is going to be, I'm going to do add the opposite. So negative 8, I change the subtraction to addition, and I change negative 4 to its opposite, which is positive 4. And now, do I have the same sign? No, I do not. I have different signs. So I'm going to look for the number that has the greatest absolute value. In this case, it's the negative 8. And then, so that means my answer, my sum, will have the sign of a negative. And then I'm just going to take the difference between the absolute values. So that would be 8 minus 4. So I've got negative 4. And that is the sum of negative 8 minus negative 4. Okay, if you have questions, bring them to class. And I'll see you guys later.